Welcome to this talk about Aberdeen cinemas and theatres, records held by Aberdeen City and Aberdeenshire Archives. I'm Phil Astley, City Archivist. Aberdeen City and Aberdeenshire Archives exists to collect, preserve and make publicly accessible the historical records of the two local authorities, as well as those records created by private businesses and individuals that are deemed to be of historical value, such as Grampian Police, Aberdeen Harbour Board, Hall Russell, and Esselmont and Mackintosh. The core of the city's records are stored in this room in the townhouse known as the Charter Room. Included in these records are the finest and most complete collection of medieval borough records in Scotland, which run almost continuously from 1398 to the present day. The records that span 1398 to 1511 are so unique that they are recognised by UNESCO as being of outstanding historical importance to the nation. They were inscribed on the Memory of the World Register in 2013. The archive also holds records at Old Aberdeen House on Dunbar Street in Old Aberdeen. Here, you will be able to access the records of Aberdeenshire Council and all the records relating to schools, poor relief, valuation, etc. are held at this building. The first public showing of a film in Aberdeen was held at the Music Hall on September the 28th, 1896. Amongst the features shown were footage of the inside of an engineer's shop and the wing of the Russian Tsar. As cinema developed, it attracted a large working-class audience, and many cinemas were opened and built in working-class areas. Aberdeen had a huge number of cinemas, some of which changed names, were demolished or fell out of use. Not all operated at the same time, but prior to World War II, the city had 19 cinemas. Quite an achievement, as the population was only around 175,000 at that time. Today, there are 4 cinemas serving a population of around 220,000. These are multiplexes with a number of screens, but it is still a change from the pre-war days. La Scala Picture Theatre was opened on the 30th of April 1914 as the first purpose-built cinema in Aberdeen. The Music Hall was the first building to screen a cinematic feature, but was not built purely for cinematic presentations. Designed by John Edney of Glasgow and George Sutherland of Aberdeen, it was a palatial building with luxurious interiors. The tea room, run separately from the cinema, was decorated in an Eastern style using rich colours of black, gold, pink and green. The cinema audience was entertained by an in-house musical trio, an orchestra under the leadership of Herr Leon Porknoy. By the mid-1930s, the cinema had become dated and was physically deteriorating. It closed on Saturday the 18th of May 1935, and the building was demolished. A new cinema, the Majestic, opened on the old site of the La Scala Picture Theatre. It closed and was demolished in 1973. The Regal Cinema opened in 1954 with its first film, Knights of the Round Table, starring Richard Todd and Anne Crawford. It later changed its name to the ABC Cinema and was demolished in 2000 to make way for a modern cinema complex. The entrance that you see in the picture here is still on Union Street for what is now View Cinemas, but is no longer used. This shows the interior of the Regal ABC. And this shows the demolition of the ABC in progress. The Torrey Picture House in Crombie Road was opened on the 2nd of May 1921 by Sir James Taggart, formerly Lord Provost of Aberdeen. By the mid-1930s, it had become the Torrey Cinema. It boasted superb music, the brightest pictures and the cosiest seats, and the stupendous picture attraction on its first day of opening was The Life of Christopher Columbus. The building underwent improvements in 1939, including the additions of a neon-lit canopy, a larger screen, and new curtains. The auditorium was painted in pale pink. By the 1960s, the cinema had become economically unviable, and it closed on the 24th of September 1966. The site is now occupied by a block of shops. Work began on the Regent Cinema in Justice Mill Lane in 1927. Designed by Thomas Scott Sutherland, it was built on the site of one of the oldest grain mills in the city. When it opened in February 1932, it was described as having imposing dignity, and it reflected confidence in a booming industry. It became the Odeon Cinema in 1940 and closed in 2001. The building remains Thomas Scott Sutherland's first and only surviving cinema, and its exterior is listed. We hold some lovely programs for the Regent, something which is no longer done by the major cinema companies. As far as I'm aware, the Belmont is the only one in Aberdeen which still publishes a regular program of screenings. The one that you see here dates from 1936. The Picture House was opened in December 1914 at 181 Union Street by Associated Provincial Picture Houses. It had a plain entrance with white marble finished pillars and a large open fireplace in which a coal fire burned in winter. Dark wood-panelled walls were hung with French tapestries, and there was a large tea room on the first floor called the Tapestry Room. By 1950, the Picture House had become the Gaumont. It closed on the 6th of October 1973 and was demolished, with the site being redeveloped for offices. The Picture House also published programs, and again this one dates from the 1930s. The continuous performance is again something which is not done today. Gone is the opportunity to enter the cinema at any time, sit through half the film, and then wait until the picture begins again. The Astoria was built on part of the old Central Park, just north of Kitty Brewster Auction Mart. It was also designed by Thomas Scott Sutherland and opened on the 8th of December 1934. It boasted space for more than 2,000 people. Its proximity to the relatively new housing areas of Kitty Brewster, Powys, Woodside and Hilton should have ensured its success. It closed in August 1966, reopening later that month for a brief stint as a bingo hall, before finally closing in January 1967. By April of that year, it was being demolished and the site redeveloped as a shopping complex. The cinema's Campton Theatre organ had been removed piece by piece, restored, and housed in the hall of Powys Academy. In November 1982, vandals set fire to the hall, and the organ was totally destroyed. In June 1910, Henry N. Phillips set up a picture house in the Union Hall at the corner of Union Terrace and Skene Street. Phillips called his cinema the Picture Dome. In September 1920, the entire Union Club building was purchased by Aberdeen Picture Palaces. It was sold again in August 1924 to James Donald and reopened as the Cinema House. Talkies were introduced there in 1930. The Cinema House closed on the 16th of January 1971 and was converted to a bingo hall. In 1998, it was redeveloped as a bar and restaurant. The Capitol was built in 1932 on the site of the Electric Cinema. The previous building was demolished and a new frontage onto Union Street was constructed. The Capitol holds a fond place in many Aberdonians' hearts, as it later became a venue for concerts with many famous acts playing there. The bar was also popular, being kept open even when the cinema and concert hall closed. This picture shows the ladies' powder room in the Capitol. And this programme for the Capitol was deposited with us just last year. The Casino Cinema on the Beach Boulevard. This picture was taken in 1950s, just after the road was officially opened by the Queen Mother. The Queen's Cinema at 120 Union Street was originally the meeting rooms of the Society of Advocates and has been operating most recently as a nightclub. The Grand Central was located on George Street, but the building is no longer there, unfortunately. Here's a picture of the same building from a different angle. And here's the interior of the Grand Central. The Playhouse was situated at 475 Union Street, opened in 1915 in a former billiard hall. It was reconstructed and renamed the Playhouse in 1921 with seating for 1,000. It was then renamed the Playhouse Continental in 1959, closed and demolished in May 1974. The Playhouse was set well back from the street on stilts over a dairy at the back, so entrance was through a lower foyer and upstairs to the cash box, formerly situated at the street entrance. Here's a picture of the Kingsway, which opened in 1939, seating 2,380 people. It was closed and since used for bingo in 1962. Here's a picture of the interior of the Kingsway and a more modern shot of the exterior, showing the building in use as a bingo hall. At one time, adverts for cinemas were everywhere. This is the familiar junction of Hutchin Street and George Street, showing an advert for the casino. Along with cinemas, we also have some information on theatres, including this amazing building warrant plan of the Tivoli. We do have some building warrants for cinemas as well. If you would like any other information about our holdings relating to cinemas and theatres, do please get in touch with us at